Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Roundup here on BloodbowlLive. Here to go through all of the last week's action from the A&DBBL Season 9. 7 games to bring you this week. From across the groups, Mr. Scott Bryan and Mr. Tom Hovell here to joining me as always to go through all of the details from the games. Before we dive straight in, a very quick heads up, and I'll remind people at the end as well that our very good admin and league runner-up, Mr. Luke Baggett, is going to start doing his tour play article match updates again like he did last season. He will post a bit more information on that in the Discord. So keep an eye out from that to find out how you can get involved as well. I'll remind people at the end for anyone who's not on yet, but we will dive straight in and start looking at some games of Blood Bowl. And the first one we are going to look at is Vampires versus Goblins. It is the Waldenhof Blood Knights versus I Hate Blood Bowl. And a 2-1 win for the Goblin team here. 4-0 on casualties, a very good result for the Goblins. In what was a very, very close game that could have ended 1-1, it could have ended 2-2, it could have ended 2-1 the other way. There was very little in it. Played at Hopsters. A big thank you to them for hosting some of the Blood Bowl games for us this season. But a very good result for Elliot. He'll be very pleased with this one. I'm sure anyone keeping an eye in the Discord will have noticed that there was a slight rule confusion halfway that the admins had to make a ruling on. Regarding the swoop skill. And hey, we all make mistakes with skills sometimes. It's very early in the season, and I'm sure that I think we probably all know how swoop works now. So hey, we've all learned something from it. Scott, coming to you first then this evening. The Vampires here, unlucky not to get at least a point, if not a win, from this one. I guess the kind of saving grace here is it's the first game of the season, so there's a long way to go. And Elliot, regardless of the team, is a coach to keep an eye on.
Good evening, Christopher. Good evening, chat. Good evening, everybody. Special shout out to Mr. Luke Baggett and to the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. John Reader. Evening all. Yeah, on paper, this was definitely looking favourable to the Vampires. However, we know no matter how many rerolls you take, the Vampires are always vulnerable to good old bloodlust. If you look at actually how the match progressed, it was an early, classic game played by Mr. Elliot there. 1-0 to the Vampires, and then basically Elliot got his famous turn 7, turn 8 touchdown to go in at to go on par, shall we say, at halftime. And then he used those fouls magnificently. You can see targeting the throws, exactly what you need to do against linemen. And again, foul. And then the classic Elliot Smith turn 16, 2-1 grind drive. It's what we've come to love. It's what we've come to expect. So yeah, and here's one for you again for your cliche bingo cards tonight, chat. You can only beat the team in front of you. And whilst I think the Vampires were slightly favourite on paper, I think it's one of those when the Goblins are fouling, as Scott Norman will attest to. You got to love them. And they can be really, really, really frustrating. So well done, Elliot. Commiserations, Mitch. But again, marathon, not a sprint. Evening, Mark, by the way, in chat. Sorry.
Tom, as a Vampire coach yourself, it may not be the result Mitch will have wanted here in game one, particularly against Goblins, but MVP and 2 completions on the Vampire thrower to immediately get the chance to have a chosen skill, and he has immediately gone for leader. So as far as the kind of team building, as far as the kind of build up, growing this team over the season goes, may not be the points he wants, but it's a good start as far as team progression goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a bit unfortunate because it just does look like it started pretty good for the Vampires, to be brutally honest, because the Looney was taken out early doors, and then obviously the bomber was sent off straight after the touchdown. So like midway through the first half. So you kind of think, well, there you go, 2 dangerous secret weapons out of the way. Happy days. But unfortunately, by the looks of things start to unravel. The Fanatic was going a little bit crazy, started to kill a thrall, and then there was another casualty, a thrall. And we all know once these thralls start getting injured or knocked out, then your little blood banks are starting to dwindle, and it's starting to restrict the way the vampires move. So again, don't know how well the dice rolled for him, but it did look like a kind of a combination of lack of thralls and lots and lots of fouling.
I think with them 5 re-rolls as well now in the bank, it's going to give Mitch a solid base to, build this team off. And we know from previous seasons as well, we saw it with Mr. Tom Hunt and our current reigning champion, Mr. John Reeder, man, myth, legend. We know that, these team vampires can be incredibly powerful. So Mitch has got a really, really good platform to build on as well.
I think both these are ones to watch in this group. I think Elliot, even with stunties, there's a good amount of SPP from that game. He'll be someone who will be getting used to this team very quickly and be able to make an impact. And I think Mitch is, I think he's got a plan. I think he's got players he wants to bring in. And the vampires sort of, I think he got on with them sort of compared to elves. The step from elves to vampires isn't a huge one. So yeah, really keen to see how both of these teams get on moving forward.
Elliot put in the chat, and I have to comment on this because I don't often use Twitch, but he put in and Twitch had asterisked out Looney as a potential triggering name. So clearly, when I've gone to look at it, I have to click on it to say I'm over 18 and I accept responsibility. So apparently the Looney sucks and he hates it. He rolled double ones to blitz, but armor wasn't broken, luckily.
Good luck to Mitch and Elliot going forward. Still many games to play. So we'll see how both of these teams progress. And we'll move on to our next game, which was a 2-1 victory for the Melton Mudpackers against the Bitey Ducks on Friday night. 3-2 on casualties as well. A very good result for Andy in this group against the Ducks, who got off to a good start in their first game, but fall short against these Snotlings. A interesting game, this one. Game plan for the Ducks was quite clear going into it. Get those secret weapons sent off as quickly as possible. And that worked. The weapons were both sent off. The bribe failed as well. And it was a very good start. But then very quickly, Morg started to do his thing, removing players. Players slowly dropping like flies as the game goes on. Decision made not to use the APOC on both the Saurus and then on the Croxagore because they weren't too badly hurt, saving it for the second half. And then in that second half, Hackflem did his thing. Morg did his thing. And the chance to go 2-1 up, to go 2-0 up with a skink blitz failed on the last of about 10 or 11 dodges. No, I think it was a rush with a sure feet reroll failed, and a 14 to a 14 puts Leicester in a pretty bad position with a strength stat bust. So difficult second half for the Ducks, but Andy playing exceptionally well with the Snotlings. Using Morg really efficiently to kind of run in and out of a line of Snotlings to do the blitz and then go back to safety. Hackflem being kept really safe up until the point he can pull that trigger. And even a difficult weather event in this one, changing weather gave us pouring rain. But Hackflem is still picking up on twos. It doesn't really make a difference because of the edge and because of all the skills he's got. So really tough game to play, and Andy doing very well, and a bit of a statement in this group that Snotlings and being this one of the stunty teams in the group does not mean he is definitely not up there for a possible top 4 here. Tom, we'll come to you first. You're going to have to play these Snotlings at some point in this season. Morgan Hackflem as a combination, we know, everybody knows very well when it comes to Snotlings. We know how good it is. And when there are so many Snotlings on the field and you've got that wall to break through, it can be very difficult to do a lot about it as well.
Yeah, it must have been. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. Unfortunately, we've both got 2 lots of Snotlings in our group. So I'm expecting a very similar layout for both of them on this. If anyone knows of any tactics to get around this, answers on a postcard, please email them in. That'd be lovely. I would appreciate it very much.
I without personally commenting, Tom, but just recommended with no professional qualifications, I would just go for C4 explosives. I think that's a pretty solid effort.
Well, unfortunately, I won't be able to get an inducement, so I couldn't get a bomber. But yes, that could be a good tactic against it.
There's recipes on the internet if you know where to look. Anyway,
let's not get ourselves shut down. Just
yeah, let's not be talking about homemade explosives. Let's keep to the Blood Bowl.
Yeah, please.
Scott,
yeah, Christopher.
Andy is on his fourth team in 5 seasons. Snotlings, he's coming this time. He's clearly done his research. He knows kind of good combinations and good tactics with them. How key is the inducements going to be for him in having the combo here? Because having Morg is one thing, having Hackflem is another. Having Hackflem but not having Morg, are there enough kind of inducement combos that when he doesn't have the 700 plus he had in this game, that he's going to be able to put enough together?
Simply put, yes. You've got not just Hackflem, but you've got Skitter. So if you need that movement 9. You've got the stab in there. You can always get that movement. You can always get that strength. So I think, he has those opportunities. I don't know if he's in chat or if Andy, if anybody knows what are Andy's plans with this team. Is he going to use them as a bit of a one-season fun team and mainly rely on his inducements, or is he thinking about promoting his Snotlings to levels near seen before for the little green fellas? I don't know. My question for you, Chris, is we've talked about how when you're playing Snotlings, most of the time you are playing Hackflem and Morg or similar combinations. What was your plan? Because it seemed to start very, very well. Were you going better than expected before things got a bit sour?
Yeah, I was actually pretty happy with how it was going, because I think I did what I wanted to in getting the weapons off and getting them sort of clear, getting the bribe gone. So that all went exactly how I wanted it to. And then I was sort of aiming for, if I could, I only wanted to give Morg 1 punch a turn. I didn't want to give him any more punches a turn, and that was working as well. And I thought if I can remove maybe a Snotling every couple of turns, or at least knock them out, I can reduce the size of the wall that I have to get through. And that just didn't happen. I sort of removed a couple, but didn't manage to get many more, which was tough. So yeah, not getting the removals was difficult, because Snotlings you always think are a good SPP farming opportunity, and then when that doesn't happen, it can be a bit of a slog, especially when there are Riotous rookies in play as well. So yeah, it was going well until it wasn't, to be honest. And then when it stopped going well, it kind of went catastrophically badly. But Andy played very well. Andy had his game plan. He stuck to it. And I think if he does that in the other games, and he can keep players on the pitch, and he can, and he's got sort of those stars at his disposal, I think he's going to be very difficult for a lot of people in this group, and I think shouldn't rule out top 4 by any stretch, and maybe even Stunty Cup as well. Yep. We will come back to the Ducks later on for their second game, but for now we will move on to the Lavender Lynxes versus the Vauxhall Road Scavengers, a 3-0 win for Dave Rue and his Necromantic Horror team here, racking up a massive 17 SPP in this one. A really, really good result for him in this game. Tom, I'll come to you first with your Necromantic Horror and Amazon knowledge here. Dave was saying in his early games, he started off with a loss in game 1, and he was talking about how this team can be quite difficult to start with when you don't have any additional skills and trying to grow those. He's 3 games in, and he's immediately got a team that is looking like he's got some of the right skills in the right places here. A block on a werewolf, dodge on a werewolf, block on a flesh golem, fend on a lineman with a bunch of SPP waiting just to frustrate people. He's very quickly got over that hurdle.
Absolutely, yeah. It looked like an absolute kind of funfair excitement for Dave, unfortunately, to the expense of Graham on this one. Both werewolves getting touchdowns and also the Ghoul Runner as well. Just quickly have a look and see what's the Ghoul Runner up to on SPP. I've got 3. Okay, so yeah, he's starting to farm that SPP really well on this team. He's clearly got a good handle of how they operate, how it works. To be honest, it's an interesting one because with Necromantic, you can sometimes stretch them a little bit too far, so they can become disjointed, and then people can easily pick you off. But again, Amazons aren't particularly bashy. They're very much more dodging. So is it the case that the dice didn't roll well? Is it the case that, you know, they're constantly having to pick his players up off the floor and not being able to get those bashes in as much as Dave? We don't know. If anyone does, let us know. But it does look like it was a bit of a whitewash, unfortunately.
Yeah, looking in the Discord, there were a few comments Dave was making about Graham's dice, sadly, sort of once again, as he's had in previous seasons, being pretty horrendous for him. And Graham's in the chat saying that Dave rolled on Prez to Nuffle and got block on the second golem for the game as well, which is absolutely killer for the Amazons, to then have 2 strength 4 block pieces, with stand firm sat there in the middle of the field. Scott, it's always tough, isn't it? Because we've said this in previous. I could probably go back looking through all of the roundups we've done, and I could probably get a collection of clips together where I say Graham's had some really shocking dice in this game. And at some point, I've got to stop saying it, but he's had them again. Hopefully, it won't continue.
I agree, Chris. You could make an hour-long montage of that. It feels like when this match was scheduled, I did not think it would be anything like this. A 3-0 win, 17 SP for Dave as well. So yeah, when it's going against you with the dice, it's going against you and it's painful. I think as well, part of the challenge for Graham in terms of developing this team, he's got a lot of core players there. If you look at the skills, it's going to take a number of SPP to move them on in terms of the relevant skill tree as well. I think there's, again, a long, long way to go. Graham's, played 2, drawn 1, lost this one to Dave as well. Opportunities to move on with this team as well. I don't know. It'd be interesting, Graham. He says fingers crossed in there, and all the best and good luck. Except when you play me, Graham, of course. But I'd be interested to know, Graham, are you still feeling the love for these Amazons? Because last year it felt he was getting the SP, getting the skills, dice weren't quite rolling, and I'm just wondering, is he still enjoying playing them as well?
What I think is going to be interesting going forward is having a look at last season and looking at the fact that last season we had 8 games in the group, and people qualified for the top half of the table with 3 out of 8 wins. And you're looking now at Dave's got 2 wins out of 7 here. You are starting to, I think everyone's kind of guessing at how many wins, how many points are enough here. 2 early wins out of 3 could be enough to just then tick yourself along, depending on how other results go. So it's a very good start from Dave. But for Graham, there is a long season to go. There are many more games to play. And if only 2 or 3 wins is what you need, those wins are out there. So absolutely should not be concerned there. Well done to both coaches. A great game by the looks of it here. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if I've said it in a previous one or not. Dave is playing a necromantic horror team that I painted, and I was so pleased with the paint job. They were one of the most fun teams I've ever painted, but I just had no desire to ever play them. So Dave has taken them, and I therefore, part of me is kind of absolutely cheering for the Foxhole Road Scavengers to go as far as possible so I can have a little cheer. So I'm sorry, Graham. Well done, Dave. Very happy with the result. Hopefully Graham's dice turn and they get better for the rest of the season. Let's move on then to game number 4. It is Skex's Carrying Pieces versus the I-Town Gougers, and a 2-0 win for the Orc team here for reigning champion John Reeder. A game which both coaches will have been very familiar here. These two have played each other a number of times. Tournaments, the Ipswich Blood Bowl League, they'll have come across each other as well. And Ash here with his Lizards getting off to 2 losses from 2, sadly, in his first season here. But he's come up against his second very, very good opponent. Whether he is kind of trying to get all the difficult games out of the way, I'm not sure, because in 2 games, Scott, he has played 2 A&DBBL champions. He hasn't got a great result from either of them, but he has got a little bit of SPP there. John, starting the season, how he will want to go on.
Yeah. Evening, Mr. Reader, again, by the way. This is the IBL for A&DBBL, isn't it? So these two have played each other many times before. Ash has probably drawn here and come up against the two, if not arguably but definitely 2 of the top coaches in the A&DBBL. Really, really difficult on both. John as well. He knows his orcs. He's played them in, several tournaments, so he knows how to direct them around the board. To get a 2-0 win, I think he'll be absolutely, really very, very pleased with that start as well. Gives him a good base to build on as well. But as you rightly said a few moments ago, Chris, Ash has played 2 of the toughest coaches with Lizardmen. We know Lizardmen can be, turn results around very quickly. And he's got 5 more games to play in this division. 2 or 3 good, 2 or 3 wins, that's all it will take. And suddenly you're in the top half. It's going to be very close.
Ash is starting these Lizards off fresh, and looking at the team, he's got a Saurus with 4 SPP there. He's got a Saurus that he's given block to already. That's a good starting point. Lizards can be slow to build, but they can very quickly swap into a very, very difficult team to face. Let's talk about the Orcs then a little bit. And Tom, will come to you, a fellow Orc coach for this season. The lineup that John's gone for is actually very similar to yours, with the absence of a thrower, which you have in your team, that John does not have. He has gone for 3 rerolls here, and possibly lucky for everyone else in this group. While he did quite well on SPP for this game, not quite enough to choose a skill on anyone. So John clearly being patient and not going for the randoms.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so he's got, whereas I've got a redrafted thrower, he's got 2 linemen. The interesting thing that jumps out at me is who scored the first touchdown, a big and blocker. Now that's impressive, considering that you usually find that without a thrower to pick up the ball, it usually falls to the actual blitzers to take that role of running the ball around. So that's hats off to him. So that's a big and blocker sitting there with 4 SPP there. He's also got he's got 2 big and blockers, one with 3, one with 4 SPP, and a blitzer sitting there at 5. So yeah, we know how John likes to play. He doesn't like to just randomize things. He's got a strategy of how he wants to develop this team. It looks like it was a hard fought match, casualties on both sides. And again, talking about skills and stuff, Ash will probably be a little bit relieved that he's now got 1 Saurus blocker with block. So that will give him a little bit more confidence to start throwing punches maybe in the next game.
Absolutely, yeah. It's where I want to get. I'm not there yet, and I'm desperately trying to get there. Well done to both coaches here. One thing I would say on John Reeder's ability to score with the big guys, clip that however you will, is that I remember a few seasons ago he was playing Norse. His first game was up against Blackhawks, and I think his first touchdown was with an Ulfwener. And I asked him about that, and he said that in another league he was playing, like, his touchdowns were coming from the strength 4s in the team. So it's not something that John is not afraid to do. So yeah, good luck to John going forward. We'll see whether he can make it a 4th title this year, but a good start against a good coach as well. Ash may have come in here as someone in the bottom tier, but make no mistake that Ash is a very, very good coach, and I think we're only a few skills away and a few games away from seeing him fighting at the top of this group. So good luck to him as well. Let's move on then to game 5, and it is the Claws of Corn versus the Eagles of Corn. But it's not Corn v Corn, it's Dark Elves versus Corn. Corn everywhere. I'm sure we're going to get confused at some point, but we'll do our best. It is a 1-0 win for the Eagles of Corn here, and we have to say a big congratulations to them because it is their first competitive game of Blood Bowl that they have played, and they have got a win in their first league game. A fantastic result for them, so a huge well done. Scott, you are also playing Dark Elves this season. And looking at the Dark Elf team that came in there was a Blitzer, 4 Blitzers, and a Runner. So a slightly different build to the one that you have gone for your roster. An interesting kind of matchup for the Dark Elves here with Khorne. All of that frenzy that they've got in that team. How is that how is that a challenge that you would approach sort of with the sort of corner, quite a specific challenge with the amount of frenzy they have across the board? How is that something that you would kind of approach as a Dark Elf coach?
Stay away from the sidelines, definitely. And just be very mindful of your positioning, in terms of what sort of blocks you can give away. I know you're armor 9 on Dark Elves, which is always a help. Witch Elves and obviously Runners with Standard and Assassins. However, I still think, like anyone, you've got to be respectful of any Khorne team. Speaking to Scott in the shop about this one, I think the Dark Elves suffered a bit of possibly the wrath of Nuffle and some not so great dice as well. So it's an interesting one to see how the Dark Elves turn around for this one, with that Runner starting to make a headway. And we know that with Dark Elves, and like any Elvish team from scratch, you are going to take 2, possibly 3 matches to at least get one player to where you want to get him.
Tom, this is a really interesting game for us to kind of observe. We're in this group as well, and I don't know about you, but I saw this result happening. I kind of knew the Blood Bowl background for both coaches, and what it reminded me of is that and something that we know in this league is that anyone can beat anyone, and you just need a few dice to go your way or not go your way. And here we've got a more experienced coach versus a very, very new coach. Both coaches brand new to our league, so we don't know much more about them other than kind of what we've heard. So it's kind of like, I don't know how to feel. I don't know whether this has scared me, whether this has given me any confidence. I've got absolutely no idea.
Yeah, I was looking at it thinking, well, crummies, there's a blitzer that's out for the next game. So I'm going to go and have a word with them and see if they would like to play. So at least there'll be one blitzer down on the Dark Elf side. And then equally on the Eagles of Khorne, you've now got a Marauder up to 7 SPP. So just a word of advice there, you can now choose your skill. And the Marauders do actually have general and movement as their 2 skill choices there. So we can all kind of guess what skill you're potentially going to put on it. It's an interesting one there. Looking forward to playing them, to be honest. It seemed from tour play, it seems like it was a quiet match. But yeah, well done for your first competitive match.
A good welcome to the league for both coaches here. Hopefully, if the dice were a factor here, then Andy's dice will get better as the season goes on. Hopefully, not too better. Just keep them bad until after Friday. That would be really, really good. But well done to both coaches for a good played out game. Interesting start to the season there. One of many games that I'm sure me and Tom will be keeping a very close eye on as the season goes on. Let's move on then to our penultimate game, and we are at the feet of Mr. Scott Bryan. It is Smoking a Pancake versus the Orphic Gladiators, a coaching rematch from the quarterfinals from last season here. Chaos Renegades coming back with the same redrafted team, Scott bringing a different flavor of elves along. And may not be as high a scoreline, but again, at full time, it is a draw, 1-1 this time rather than the insane 3-3 from last season. But a result, Scott, I'll let you kind of tell us a bit what happened here. But having spoken to you and having spoken to Luke as well, it feels like possibly you're both seeing this as a point gained rather than 2 points dropped.
Yeah. So thanks, Chris. So, and I'm sure Luke will chip in. Thank you very much, Mark, for calling it out what it was, a game of stinky dice in chat. When we played our match last season in the Octo final, 4-3 result, that was absolutely high octane. This was high octane as well, but for all the wrong reasons. It was stressful. It was unbelievable. The dice were awful all around. If you want to go and watch it, have a look on the YouTube and on the Twitch. It's all on there. Luke, I started with Edril Sidewinder, so I had enough for one extra. I wanted at least one extra player, and I thought with Edril and his Hypno Gaze, give you a chance to open up cages, rather than taking something like Maple to stand on the line and get beaten up by 3 big guys. And again, if you do want to talk about lucky big guys, apparently there's John Reader now. Well done, John Reader. See you laughing, Chris. It's going to stick. So, Luke's dice in his first 3 drives were awful. He got double skull, and then he failed the loner reroll on his Roger. He got double skull, failed the loner reroll on his Ogre. And then I think he had a skull and a 1 down on his next one as well. So it was all over. I was getting a few pushes. I managed to get the ball off him. Had an opportunity for a Witch Elf to dodge out, pick up the ball, do a rush handoff with 2 rerolls, mind you, and possibly run it in to score against the drive. The Witch Elf suddenly decided, and this is after many 1s into 1s, to fail a rush. And then the 1 goes into a 1, went down. Armor got smashed, had a missed next game injury, so I thought I'd use the APOC, and that came up death. So it was, it was 14 it came up. So it was a question of, well, there you go. So now I have a stat-busted Witch Elf, and the only positive, Chris, as a fellow coach with a stat-busted player, it's only passing, so I can live with that.
I'll trade.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And in terms of the rest of the match, it went from mad to ridiculous. Failed dodges, failed dice. It was really pressure. And Luke, I scored whatever it was, and then Luke did a really good throw teammate at the end to score as well. It could have gone either way. The dice rolls were all over the place. As you said, a really good match. I think people are going to struggle against the Renegades. They are really a really good team. Luke's got them really balanced and playing well. I have to say, sorry, Luke, I saw your random skill that you generated on your big guy, on your troll. Sorry about that. But I thought, because I'm missing 2 players in my next match, if I can be lucky and try and get some decent skills, that's fine. I didn't, so there you go. So yeah, the next few matches I think are going to have to play some solid to get some decent points and some results out of them. Still not loving the Dark Elves, I'm going to be brutally honest. Still not loving them completely. But if you look at the Orphic Gladiators, you can see on there, and you can see those skills that Luke's got. Some absolute wonderfully filthy. I mean, that Goblin is just, I did knock it out. Couldn't quite get it in terms of the bounty that's still on its head. But yeah, it's really good. And it's always great to have a beer with Luke afterwards. So yeah, very good match. We were both absolutely sweating at the end of it, and not just because it was warm in A&D.
Luke's
in the comments saying it was such fun, tense game. Just no give from either of us. Not much more to add. But Scott with Dark Elves is equally as scary as we. So you've clearly, and like you say, looking at that Chaos Renegade team, you clearly dodged a bullet, because you could have been absolutely slaughtered with those big guys and their stats.
Oh, cheers. Thanks for that feedback on my playing skills, Tom.
No, I'm not saying about your playing skills. I'm just saying that looking at that team, it looks absolutely shocking.
Yeah, it's a way to go yet. Long way to go. Playing Mark and the Woodies on Friday, so that's going to be another challenge. Completely the opposite. I do love my Woodies. So yeah, we'll wait and see.
I think, Tom, it's interesting to watch this group, because this is the group that I think most people are looking at as being particularly terrifying for a few reasons. And if you are anyone else in this group other than Luke and other than Scott, while they're looking at this as 1 point gained rather than 2 points lost, I think everyone else is looking at it as two very strong coaches with teams that they can do well at losing 2 points. And now a win from someone else, suddenly jumps you in a good position. More and more of these good high profile kind of games coming up with draws is good for the people who are maybe just looking to get one win and hop up above that.
Yeah, and also just survivability of players, because you've got a number of agile teams in there, including Scott with his Dark Elves, but the Amazons, Wood Elves. But then you've equally got quite some hard-hitting teams like the Chaos Renegades, like Dwarves through Jamie's World Age Berserkers, and also those Wildermere Wasps. They're not going to be pushovers either. And you start hemorrhaging your players, and that can really impact on your season.
A really interesting game to play out from someone who does all of these things with Scott and has got Luke doing all of the admin and all of this stuff, and knowing you both very well makes it a lot easier for me to be neutral to watch this play out as a 1-1 draw. So thank you to you both from me from that perspective. But
it's all about you, Chris.
All about me, obviously. But very well done. A hard fought game there. And like Scott said, one that you can watch if you want to go and rewatch this game. You can go and see it over on the YouTube channel. It is there for you to see. Coming along to the final game of the week then, and we're back at the Bitey Ducks. It is myself and Mr. Hovel. You've got 2 NDP for the price of 1 in this game. And a 2-0 win for the Lizards against the Orcs here, 2-2 on casualties. And it was a game of for a large chunk of it, it was kind of 2 slabs of meat smacking against each other, waiting for one of those slabs of meat to break.
What sports journalist type have you been reading, Chris?
Welcome to Eurotrash Sports Channel.
This is a real. I think we talked about this, and this is a tough matchup for both teams. Maybe tougher on the Orcs from a strength kind of perspective, and the amount of strength that the Lizards then have. Lots of punching going on here. Only the 2 casualties between the 2 of us. A touchdown, a stalling as much as I possibly could for a touchdown in the first half, and then a wild attempt at a passing play, freeing up the ball to get a touchdown in the second. Tom, how did it go for you? How are you feeling after this game? Because you've come out of it with 9 SPP, you've come out of it with no players sort of missing, because there was the thrower at one point was going to be gone, but the APOC kind of brought them back. So how are you kind of feeling off the back of this one?
Yeah, it was an interesting one. It was the fact that, like you say, both bashy teams, but you just had 2 extra strength 4 players, which I think, and also you were getting stumbles and pals like there's nobody's business.
A lot of stumbles came my way.
Yeah. So you were very lucky and very fortunate with the dice were on your side. Whereas alternatively, I was having to pick my players up most of the time in my turn. And then when I was getting kind of blitzes and blocks, unfortunately, they were turned into just pushers. So it was a bit of a frustrating game on that point. But I managed to get round and take have a couple of pops at the skinks, but bearing in mind you defend that very, very well. It was an interesting game because, as you say, I got to a point in the second half where I was just unable to move forward. You'd got me, I'd kind of switched sides. I'd taken the ball one side, then I took it to another side. And you clearly were, with the fact that you've got movement 6 over across the board, more or less, as well as the 8s on the skinks. It was something that I just couldn't do. I had managed to get a blitzer around the back of your team, so I thought, I'll put a penny in for a pound. Let's just try it. So I tried a blitzer to blitzer pass with Orcs, which obviously went wrong, but not as wrong as it could have done. And I think I managed to hold you off for a little while. It wasn't as easy as just picking up the ball and running with it.
No, I did. It was then a little bit cagey as to kind of the ball being picked up and then dropped and then picked up and then dropped. And then, it wasn't completely plain sailing at that point. The thing about playing you, Tom, is that that at some point you could try something like the famous pass to no one that I've seen you do a few times, and then running a quick player in. So that blitzer being there, not being able to get anybody onto them, and then going for the pass. I mean, you had four. I think it was +2 on the pass on a passing of 4 up anyway, and then you had 4 tackle zones around you as well. So it was 6 or nothing, regardless. And it was terrifying to see it be a 4 re-rolled into a 4. That was scary enough to see happen. You always know that at some point you might try something like that, and when it comes off, there's very little you can do to defend it. So very fortunate in that respect. But Scott, sort of looking at this game then from kind of outside of the group, it's Tom's first game of the season here, getting 9 SPP, so a little bit of SPP on the board. Ducks getting a bit of SPP across, not quite enough to select a skill here. What do you think this kind of, if you were in this group, sort of seeing a game like this play out, how would you be feeling about kind of the rest of the group and how things look?
I think you've got to be very pleased with yourself, Mr. Coe. A little cheeky grin there with the, looking very good. You've got your 2 from 3. You've got some good SP ready to skill up a lot of your players. 1 casual, 1 score, 1 MVP away from seriously getting it to a good skill for that level team as well. So both here probably 2-0 win favoured yourself, but as we've always said, I think it gives Tom the opportunity. Nobody likes playing Orcs. Nobody likes playing Orcs because they can just brutalize you. But just a very heartfelt thank you for turning this little match report, gentlemen, into the carry-on of talking about slapping meat together, going round the back, and all that good stuff as well. So you've done yourselves proud. Well done.
I will say it was in that second half, while I was able to keep Tom sort of without not moving forward, I wasn't able to break past, until the kind of last moment. It was like Orcs are, with the strength, with the armor 10, they are a difficult thing to bash through, even when you've got the strength. So, Tom positioned very well to make that challenging. I just had to keep throwing things at it until it broke. So, a good game, a fun game played out. Thank you very much, Tom. Very enjoyable match. And we'll see how both these teams do going forward. But let's have a look at the standings of all of the groups then. It is still very early days, but a few groups are in a few teams are in a strong position. Looking at Darkside, Elliot sits at the top of that group after 1 game, just ahead of the Stockport Furies and the Argartha Mewers there. No one else has played in that group, so lots of games left and lots of movement to come, we can assume. Longship, 2 former champions sitting at the top on a win each, the I-Town Gougers and the 5 Rules of Dodge, with Ash and his Lizard sitting near the bottom of the group for now, but a lot of games to play as well there. The group with the most games having played, so a little bit better to maybe look at here, has Orphic Gladiators sat at the top just ahead of the Foxhall Roads Scavengers. 2 teams with very strong starts here. And looking towards the bottom of this group, 7th place, the Elf Preservation Society, still to play a game. So they are going to be quite key to see how they move when they have their first game this week. And looking at Swamp Dome, then the Ducks sit at the top of that group at the moment, but with the most games played there, just ahead of the Melton Mudpackers and the Eagles of Corn. Not many games played in that group, 3 teams with losses at the bottom, so a lot of movement that we can expect to come from there as well. That is all of the games for us this week. Another little reminder, as I said at the beginning of the stream, is that the match reports are going to be coming to TourPlay yet again. Luke is very kindly going to do these for us once again. He's going to do a post about anything he may need and how they're going to work. So keep an eye out for those on the Discord to get involved and get your matches reviewed in 500 characters on TourPlay. Thank you very much, Mr. Bryant. Thank you very much, Mr. Hovell, for joining us this week. Thanks, everybody, for joining and watching along. We will be back next week for another review of the week's action from the A&DBBL. We will see you then.